Educators and community members alike invariably use the word amazing to describe our students' immense cognitive talent and precocious accomplishments in literature, art, science, and technology. Underneath these amazing stories, however, are the feelings of fear of failure, anxiety about the future, uncertainty about their values, and social isolation. Why is this? In the past 20+ years, I've listened to 18 to 25-year-olds, and I believe we've created an invisible culture of shame that impedes our students' ability to make wise career decisions and lead happy lives. Where does this begin? I live with 90 freshmen as a resident fellow, and I'm the director of the School of Medicine's Career Center at Stanford. At its essence, my job is to see my students, to help them see themselves despite the negative pressures outside. I help them explore why they want to be, not just what. It is in this capacity that I met Rick and Kim. Theirs is an amalgam of the stories that I hear every day. When Rick was in high school, he got a DUI. This almost led to the rescindance of his acceptance to Stanford University. As a staff member, he told our freshmen this story quite often. The impact of his vulnerability and near life-changing consequence did more than any lecture I could have ever given. I met his parents at his graduation, and I shook their hand, and I said, boy, it was an honor to meet your son and to work with him all year. His father stepped back and said, why? I said, well, his empathic leadership and his ability to command respect. They stood in silent disbelief. 2 weeks later, his thank you note read, thank you for what you said to my parents. Before they met you, they thought I was a loser. Why? Because this one mistake tainted his otherwise perfect record. There are almost 8 TED Talks touting the gift of failure. Steve Jobs tells us that getting fired from Apple was actually one of the most educational experiences of his life. The missed shots in basketball, the missed shots in football, all led to success. We know on a cognitive level that it's okay to fail. But my students have the acceptance rate to Stanford University, that number, memorized. It's 5.07, and it is crammed down their throats. They are here because, in a matter of speaking, they didn't fail. We tell them, you can fail, and then we treat them like losers when they do. How does this play out? Kim was a sophomore seeking career advice. I just learned I can't be a doctor, she said. Oh my God, why? I asked. Well, I just talked to this female surgeon, and she told me she decided not to have children because it's too hard to balance children with surgery. And why do you have to give up your dream? Because she gave up hers? Well, then I could fail, and I don't think I could handle that. Why? Because I don't fail. Every generation worries about its future. Historically, however, obstacles have been seen as something to overcome, maybe eliminate. This generation would rather avoid them altogether. Career decisions are where fear of failure and anxiety about the future collide. The number of students nationwide who say being very well off financially is very important or essential has nearly doubled since 1974. The UCLA study on freshman goals shows an inverse relationship between this goal and the goal of leading a meaningful life. So as the value of finances go up, meaningful life goes down. For this reason, choosing a major at Stanford is serious business. In the 1980s, the most common major was history. Before that, English. Stanford still considers itself a liberal arts institution, despite the fact that 40% of its undergraduates major in computer science. This trend began in the late 90s with the dot-com bubble. It subsided when the dot-com bubble burst. Computer science professor Mehran Sahami saw a correlation between Stanford majors and the NASDAQ. When I tell people this, they look shocked. You look shocked. Really? Because over the last 20 plus years, I've heard stories. Stories of students who will have to pay their own tuition because they did not get straight A's. They did not major in computer science. They did not finish medical school. Our graduate students are actually a little worried about telling their advisors, I don't want to be a faculty member, despite the fact that these jobs are slowly deteriorating. On a local policy level, a lot of our music programs and arts programs are on the chopping block. And in the media, we feature 19-year-old billionaires. And the cultural myth is, that's who you should be. As with failure, we present dichotomous career advice. We tell you to follow your passion, and we put limitations on that passion. We have created a subtle but powerful message. You may follow your passion as long as it comes with a six-figure price tag. There is very little featured about social entrepreneurship on campuses, and this may very well be where our students create a new definition of success. This is important to our students. The UCLA study found that the desire to help those in need is higher than it's ever been since 1974. Ask our students what helping means to their future careers, however, and they can't tell you. When I told my students about this study, they said, you know what, Stanford really values service, but they don't quite know what that means. Let me summarize. Failure is a value, but only theoretically. Shame. Helping is a value to be subsumed. Despite its nebulous definition, shame. And majors and careers only have certain value if there's certain majors or careers. Shame. We are talking at our students at a cognitive level instead of listening to them on an emotional level, and that's costing us. Nationwide, 1 in 10 students suffers from depression. Our students are working together less than they ever have before. They're socializing less than they ever have before, and more they are looking at colleges and universities to teach them how to do this better. Our students do not know what their passion is, but they think everybody else knows. Nobody is telling them otherwise. It's almost as if there is no room for failure amid so much amazing success. This changed briefly during the dot-com. When everybody was talking about shame and failure, people were exploring other things, computer science, and they were exploring English again. I attended a shame resilience training with Brené Brown. I was stimulated by her statement that vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation. I came back, I wanted to apply that philosophy to my freshman dorm. I failed. It turns out you can't actually tell somebody, be vulnerable. It doesn't work. Go figure, really. So I sat at the breakfast table the next year with my staff, and I went through everything that went wrong the year before until one of my staff members said, maybe it's you. Yeah. Nobody talks to me like that, and they probably shouldn't. And I really wanted to leave, and I wanted to fire him, and I didn't. Instead, I took a deep breath, and I said, here's the thing. I'm scared. I don't want this year to be like last. And in that moment, I understood myself, and I understood my students. Before that moment, I understood vulnerability at a cognitive level. Then I understood it at a cognitive and emotive level. I understand that vulnerability is the birthplace of life, of one's authentic self. Then I developed my life's most guiding principle. When you don't know what to do, you must be honest. Be willing to be vulnerable. And that's my invitation to you. The most innovative thing we can do for our students today is to help them connect their immense cognitive talent with their enormous hearts to be themselves so that together we can create a world worth living in. And that begins with us. Thank you.